So welcome back to my channel. So today in this video we are going to discuss the next hook, that is useMemo hook, right? So we have already discussed use state, use effect, use context and use ref hook. If you want to check out those hooks, you can just click on the I button above. So without a further ado, let's get started. So basically, let's read a little bit about the useMemo hook, what it is. So the useMemo hook returns a memoized value. What is meant by memoized value? It means that caching a value so that it does not need to be recalculated. I know it might sound confusing to you, but let's just go to the code and understand it in a better way. So here is a code that I have written. So for now, what I have done is I've just created a component by the name memo, right? And in this we have created a state variable, that is counter, and we have the set counter function for it, right? So it is just a simple counter application. There's nothing flex in it. It's just a normal counter application. So what extra I have added is I've just added this function. I've created this function, that is random value, in which what is happening is there's a loop which is being running from 0 to this particular number, and it is just incrementing the number from by 1, right? The initial value is 0 and then it is incrementing by 1. So you can imagine, if we have to run this loop for this many times, it is a very expensive mathematical calculation, right? It is going to take a lot of time, right? After I am defining this function, I'm calling it in the next line. I'm calling this, right? And after that, I'm printing its value, right? So now let's save it and run this code. So this is the code. This is the output that we are getting here. Initially, you know the counter value is 0 and we are getting a initial value, that is this value, right? We are getting it here. You can see, like, we have generated this value and returned the num value in this random number, and then finally we are just printing this value here in the h2 tag, right? This is the scenario here. Now what happens next is, let's say if I click on this plus button, okay, you can see there's a delay. Okay, when I'm incrementing this value, there's a complete delay. Why this delay is happening? Because when I'm clicking on this button, this plus button, what is happening? This set counter is being triggered. So you know, whenever there's a state change, the component re-renders. You have seen the useState hook also. Whenever there is any change in the state, the complete component re-renders. So when we call the set counter, this whole component re-renders, and if this will re-render, that means this random value will be called again and again. So on every state change, the component will re-render and this random value function will it will be called again and again. So if it is called again and again, then this operation will also be performed again and again. Then because of that, our application will give some delay. As you can see in the application, when I'm clicking on this plus button, the state is changed. There is a complete delay, right? So this is the main glitch and the problem that we want to resolve today. So how we will resolve it? We will resolve it using the useMemo hook. Okay, what I will do is, firstly I will import the useMemo at the top. It's already imported. Now where I'm just calling this function, this random value, I'll just put useMemo before this. Okay, I'll put this, and after this what I'll do, you guys must have seen the use effect video, right? So it takes 2 arguments. Similar to that, useMemo also takes 2 arguments. What we will do, we'll just put it like this, and in the second argument I'll mention this. Like we did in the use effect hook, the first function and the second is the dependency array. Similar to this, we have this useMemo hook. What will happen in this is, the first attribute is the calling of that function. Okay, we'll call this function in the first attribute, and the second attribute is a dependency array. And I'm putting it empty because I just want to call this function for the first time. I just want to call it for the first render, right? I don't want to call it for any other state change, right? So what will happen is, whenever we will, this component will re-render for the first time, this random value function will just be called for the first render. So if it is just called for the first render, that means even if the state is keep on changing, this random value function will not be triggered again. And if it will not be triggered again, then there will be no delay in the application. Okay, let's just save it and run it again. Okay, I'll refresh the page. Okay, So now if I click on this plus button, you can see now that there is no delay. We are simply and very firmly we are able to increment the value here, right? Because this random value function is not at all running again and again, right? Because of the useMemo hook. UseMemo hook, what does it do? It actually memoizes the value, because for the first time this function is called, this random value function is called, so it will store that value in the cache. There's a cache memory, right? Let me just open the documentation. You can see that memoization is basically caching a value, means storing a value so that it does not need to be recalculated. So by using the useMemo hook, it returns a memoized value. That means it will save that value for the future use, so that we don't have to recalculate that same thing again and again. So this is all about the useMemo hook. In the interviews, it is mostly asked that why we use useMemo hook. So the simple answer is that useMemo hook actually increases the performance of your application. You can see, like, using this useMemo hook only, we are able to increase the performance. Like, we are refraining that delay. There's no delay now, right? So it basically increases the performance of your application. So this is why we use useMemo hook. Okay, so in the coming video, I'll just cover the use callback. That is the only hook that is left now, and then we will go for the lifecycle methods. So yeah, that's all for today, and I hope you find this video informative. And if you want more such videos, then please do subscribe my channel and hit on the bell icon for more such updates. Thank you so much.